Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Prepper Talk Radio with Scott, Shane, and Paris. And we're going to be having a good time tonight talking about the 10 foundations of self-sufficiency, specifically number 8, gain new skills. I've been wanting to talk about this for weeks, and we've kind of kept putting it off while we talk about some other things that are exciting, but not as exciting to me. So I'm super stoked to do this tonight. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Same as usual.
Same
as always.
What do they say, Shane? Another day, another dollar?
I think it's more than $1. Especially nowadays. It's multiple
with inflation,
dollars.
it's another day, another 20.
Exactly.
Oh, shoot. Well, I guess with inflation, another day, another $1.50 for me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Guys, I'm so excited. This is a fun topic. And before we jump into it and get going, want to remind you guys, check out our website, preppertalkradio.com. We've got a cool bunch of links on there for you guys. You can get discounts on a lot of products. But we have this side hustle we started working with that you guys could get some incredible, cool, amazing. I could just go on with wonderful words, non-expletive ones, talking about these health and wellness supplements that we found. I'm taking them every day. I've noticed amazing benefits from it. Check it out. But we've also found it's a side hustle. So we'll let you guys go find that, preppertalkradio.com/good life. Because, right, we all want more money. We all want better health. Let's go get both.
Amen to that.
It's a good skill to get. But let's talk about other skills to get. I've got a list. And I'm sure it'll probably triple or quadruple in size after tonight's discussion. But do we have somewhere specific we want to start?
Well, I always have my agenda, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Then that means it's not a hidden agenda if it's obvious.
No, not hidden whatsoever. No.
So that's good. At least we know Shane does not have a hidden agenda. Good. All right.
So I'll let you spitfire this out, and I'll cherry pick a few that I'm like, no, I got this.
Yeah, of course, I always look to the past first to prepare for the future. But looking forward to the future, what do I see coming? And obviously, I'm not seeing great things coming. So we have to become self-reliant, self-sufficient, not just now, but what's that going to look like in the future? So for me, looking to the future is probably going to be more like looking to the past. Again, kind of that same language I like to use. So kind of my list of skills, kind of my take on this, it relates to the things that are going on today and, the current events, right? We've got issues with trade, with tariffs, with China, with Russia, with Ukraine, inflation. I mean, there's a big, beautiful bill, which is going to create more inflation, which is more spending. All these types of things, are going to lead to scarcity and inflation and potentially deflation in certain things. So how can I become more resilient, more self-reliant, more self-sufficient by working on my skills right now? So that's kind of where my list is oriented.
That's a good start. I looked up, survival skills, self-reliance, homesteading skills, bow staff skills, nunchuck skills, stuff like that.
Yeah.
How to defeat a liger,
Okay, Napoleon.
Wait, what? Wait, no. I mean, nunchuck skills.
If we start talking about tater tots, I'm bouncing.
I'm pretty much the most skillful nunchucker in the whole world.
Well, I'm going to side outside of the Napoleon Dynamite stuff. I'm going to side with Shane on this one because that's basically what I was looking at too. It's like, okay, what are all the things that we learned from history that everybody used to be able to do that now it's like we're so specialized, nobody knows how to sew a button on a shirt or darn a sock. Like that used to be common knowledge. You can't see my arms. They're like way out to the sides. I'm like, what? Like things like food preservation, raising animals for food, like all these different things, how to patch a tire, how to sharpen a knife. Like those are all the skills that like, well, I take it to a guy. I got a guy for that.
Yeah.
Those are the skills that I was kind of focusing on.
Well, you want to be the guy that people bring their problems too as well. So that's part of the list of skills. And like Paris said, the word survival skills. I mean, that's always a hot button in prep with preppers, right? Learn survival skills, whether it's bushcrafting or I think survival moving forward is going to look different. I mean, we're looking at, we got AI, we got drones, we got all kinds of surveillance. And so survival is going to look different, I think, moving forward to a point. And then
I think one of the core survival skills that we all should learn immediately and have awareness is situational awareness.
Yep.
You know, it's another skill based on what you were sharing, Shane, is research skills. How to do research and really understand what it is that's happening. There was actually a funny, I was on X earlier today, probably a lot longer than I should have been. And I was scrolling and there was this guy who walked up to a Gen Xer, or no, what generation am I? Gen Z, whatever.
You're Gen X, dude.
Yeah. I'm
what
old.
Are you even questioning?
So anyways, this kid walks up to some dude in the store and shows him a video of himself and basically took a video of this dude without him knowing, ran it through an AI where the dude took off his shirt and started dancing, walked up to the dude and said, "Hey, is this you?" And the guy was like, "What? I never did that." Like, it was so real.
Wow.
And so, what are some skills that we should, that's kind of a really dangerous set. So situational awareness, threat assessment. I mean, if we got stuff like that happening in the world, we need to have some skills to protect ourselves from fraud and abuse and some of these other things. And so it's these deep fakes that could be, it could be I was listening to just another thing with AI. I was listening to a podcast earlier. I think it was Dave Ramsey has this guy who's like a psychologist come on, and he does his bit for a little while. And this girl called, and apparently one of her family members, a male family member, took a picture of her in like a, I don't know, swimsuit or something, ran it through AI, told the AI to take her clothes off basically, and then saved that picture. So now this girl feels totally violated by this family member. So it's like, what else is happening with AI potentially? Like, you might see pictures of yourself in a compromising situation, and it was totally AI generated. And so we have to have skills to know how to protect ourselves, if possible, from any of that. And that's something that I'm barely starting to realize that I need to learn. So I don't think we want to dwell too much on that, but that was just something I had today.
No, absolutely. I think AI is going to be even bigger than I want to admit right now. Critical thinking is something I've been working on for, I would like to think for, a good decade or more now, is really, and with AI really starting to show its ugly head. I mean, honestly, it probably has for a long time, but we just haven't recognized it. But it's getting so good now that it's going to be difficult to distinguish here very soon. And that's something we could discuss, because I think it's probably realistically further on from what we're being told. We're being told, oh, and it's going to be this far in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. No, I heard something about, I think it was probably on Goldback, that back in 2014, the CIA was using AI for something in particular. And so I think that just obviously points out to me that this has been going on for a lot longer, and we're never told the truth. So the part of the critical thinking for me is, okay, I can't trust anything I see or hear, and I've got to think critically and come up to my own thoughts. And like you say, Scott, learn how to do actual research, and not just Google things, not just go to the main search engines. You've got to dig deep, and there's certain ways to do that. And that takes time. And there's some good examples of people that go out there and do that.
But to your point, Shane, I heard a video. I was watching another video today about how some guy was saying that 99% of AI is actually, or we only know 1%. That's what's been allowed to the public, is 1% of the potential of AI. The 99% is still hidden and still kept from us because we're not ready, quote unquote, we're not ready for it. Okay,
Yes.
world elites, thanks for letting me know, what I'm ready for or not. And I just thought that's crazy. And then he went on to talk about how BlackRock has this AI called Aladdin that is just off the charts.
Mm-hmm. They've
And
had that
so
for a
it's
long
like,
time. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've known about Aladdin for a while, but it's like, what is it really doing in the background? You know what I mean?
It's funny. There's a movie that just came out. It's the second or the final wrap up in the Mission Impossible saga.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Dude, colossal, horrible movie. Colossally wasted budget. I'm going to spoil this for everybody. It just takes the prior movie and continues it with this cyber attack thing. Everything's over the top. Everything's crazy, but it's exactly what we're talking about in the cyber world, like AI taking over, doing things, right? We saw Terminator 1, 2, 3, 4, like
revelation of the method.
Right? So what's interesting is in all these movies, all these scenarios, they talk about a click event where everything goes dead and all of a sudden you lose your networks, you lose your power, you lose everything, right? So thinking about foundational skills of self-sufficiency, dude, we could be back in the 1400s tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Right? One false move with Ukraine and Russia, there goes power grids all over the world, right? Because they've got the best hackers in Russia. There's all this stuff. So what can we really do besides, yes, we have to do critical thinking. Yes, we have to look at everything with a grain of salt. But what can we really do for ourselves to get better prepared right now? Like with all these skills. Like I just don't want to get caught off guard. None of us do.
Yeah.
So it comes to my mind is practice, practice, practice.
Well, and a lot of things I'm seeing is telling me you need to get involved with AI. You need to learn about AI or otherwise you're going to be left behind. And I think that's absolutely true. I mean, that's one thing the company I work for, they're taking on that as much as they possibly can. They don't want to get left behind. I mean, that's going to be a priority. I mean, obviously it's a priority. And it being a big corporation, if they don't embrace technology, they are going to be left behind and somebody's going to get the finger pointed at them. And so myself in my old age, right. In my 50s, right. I've only got another decade or so to work, which hopefully it's going to be much shorter than that. So it is not my intent. And I intend to continue to leave AI behind, look to the past, because there's no AI in the past for me. And there's no AI in the future for me. If I look out long enough, I think that's the truth. Short term, I'm probably going to get left behind. So do I choose to get educated about AI and start to incorporate in everything I do? Because otherwise everyone's going to outperform me because they're going to be using AI and I'm not. Mm-hmm. And so I've got to make that decision what I'm going to do. And so is that a skill I want to adopt? No, I haven't decided. Well, I've decided I'm not going to touch that. But I guess we'll have to see how it goes moving forward. But I think it really depends on the individual. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? I don't think we have to look out any further than that personally, because of the way things are moving so quickly. What are you going to do in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Mm-hmm. And mainly to be self-sufficient, because that's what we're talking about. Self-sufficiency, self-reliance. How am I going to make myself more self-reliant? What skills do I need to become more self-reliant? What things are being left behind? And there's some clues out there. And again, I'm rambling, so feel free to cut in anytime. But there's some clues to me out there, like the automotive industry, the real estate industry. There's a lot of clues out there telling me where this is going. And if I can look forward enough, if I want to, if I decide to, okay, how can I make an income in with real estate or with the things that are collapsing right now, because they're obviously going cycles. How do I prepare for that now and see that coming first, if that makes sense, and then make the adjustments to my skill set and learn what I need to now before that hits? And I guess I could be more specific, but
well, I'm reminded of the episode 474 with Tyler White on primitive living skills. It's just those simple primitive skills, can you start a fire without a lighter, from whatever's around you, can you, and those are the 3 keys of shelter. You need to have heat and warmth, so being able to have the ability to do a few things like primitive living skills, I think is a really big place to start. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I asked Tyler White's opposite, which is ChatGPT, what skills based on the rantings and ravings of a madman. Shane just shared, and mad as in like overlord of all the apocalyptic people. He's our Mad Max. He's the smart guy among us. It basically just spouted out all the same stuff I already have on my list, but it's like water sourcing and purification, food production, cooking and preservation, shelter building and repair, basic carpentry and woodworking, mechanical repair and blacksmithing, alternative energy and heating, basic first aid and herbal medicine, sanitation and hygiene, bartering, I almost said bartending, I don't know why, and community building, mental toughness and adaptability, primitive skills, thank you, Tyler White, communication, and then navigating and map making. I had never thought of map making. I've been like a scourge on the web. Like, I need this map, and I need that map. I need this map, I need that. So I have them, but then I'm like, oh, I've never thought about making my own maps. But navigation, huge, right? Another one, if it comes to where we're having to, and I'll come back to like the skills for trade and barter and for like having a career long term, but like for scavenging, lock picking. Guess who picked a lock today?
I'm guessing that would be you.
I've got 2 lock picking sets, and my son locked us out of the alarm room at my wife's work, and so we couldn't set the alarm and leave. And I'm like, I got this. Went to my bag, pulled out my kit. It's been a while, and I hadn't worked on a commercial lock in a long time, but I got it. And then, like a dummy, I was like, "Ha! I got it open," and I closed it and put everything away. And then I went to open it again, and it didn't unlock. It just unlatched and let me in. So then I had to do it again. So I got good practice. I was getting my reps in, but I was just like, "Wow, I could use this on the show tonight." But on a deeper personal like philosophy of things, the skills that will keep me employed, not just now, but through any economic cycle, are the skills that everyone else around me doesn't have. The jack of all trades, master of none, is still always better than a master of one. Because I can figure out and do things. That comes critical thinking, right? Problem solving. I can figure out and do things a lot better the more I've practiced with different scenarios, like lock picking, like building a doghouse, building my fence, building anything will teach me how things are constructed, and being able to do that again and become repeatable. I can then use those skills in exchange for money or food or whatever else in a new world pattern after 1400s or 1500s, right? And I look at those as kind of the most important. I put on my list specifically engine maintenance, how to make oil or find oil, and then also how to make fuels. Like those are I think those will be the most valuable if we switch over or when we switch over.
Yeah, kind of like I was saying at first, is if things continue with war and with the trade, with the tariffs and such, things are going to get scarce. So small engine repair, absolutely. Yep. Automobile maintenance, those types of things, which really aren't that difficult. And I say that because that's my perception, because I've kind of always tried to do things myself, right? If like, oh, that looks like I can do it. I've never done it before. I have the amazing YouTube that can teach me how to do it. And so I have a level of confidence. So if something breaks, like, okay, I think I can fix that, even though I've never done it before. So take the time right now to fix your lawnmower instead of calling the guy to come and fix it, right? Or your washer dryer, your appliance repair, which again, parts may be hard to get. That might be a good idea to start sourcing that. And it might be a good idea to decide specifically what you want to focus on instead of, jack of all trades is obviously very important to do. But there will also be some value in saying, I know how to fix dryers, right? I know I'm inside and out, and I know that my neighbors, if they have issues, I can go and help. and create some value. And that's kind of a stupid example, but if there's something that you figured out, like I know how to pull my transmission and rebuild the transmission. Great. I've never done that before myself. I don't know honestly if I would take that on of rebuilding a transmission, but if I had no other choice, yeah, I could break into it and give it a try. So I think those types of skills, again, where the current events are going to be affecting most likely the outcome of the everyday, like you say, the everyday stuff where we just send it over to the shop, say, hey, change my oil, fix this, replace that. And as I mentioned before on other episodes, I've started maintaining my own vehicles again. Whereas before, it's just so much easier just to send it off to the shop. Now I've got the space and the time and the ability to do that myself. So that's one of the trades. It was one of the skills I'm learning, and also patience. Patience is a big part of that too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think a big skill to learn too is communication. Not like ham radio, GMRF. I mean, not radio like comms, but actually interpersonal communication. Like dealing with people who are, because if you're in a situation where the grid's down, somebody's house is on fire, there's an earthquake that just happened, people could be totally panicked and they're not going to think rationally, and you might have to be able to talk them off the proverbial ledge. And so having communication skills, and that goes right along with, in my opinion, leadership skills and organizational skills. Those are skills that are more intangible, so to speak. And so I think that's something important too, is if you have that kind of a knack for that, communication with others, interpersonal communication, you can really help influence and get people, up to your way of thinking and moving forward. Then I think you're going to have a great thing. Because I just remember this really cool quote I learned years and years ago. And it's like, what do you need to know? Well, you need to know what you know. You need to know what you don't know. You need to know who knows what you don't know. And that's all you need to know. And so if you learn something and you know it, and then know what you don't know, and then make friends with people who know what you don't know, now you've got a community of people that have enough skills to get all of you through whatever challenge is in front of you, I think.
And the more you know, remember that?
Yeah, keep that going.
Knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe, yeah.
Well, there's knowing is half the battle, G.I. Joe, but there's also like the more you know commercials.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, now I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I one of the challenges though is like in that interpersonal communication, in de-escalation, like one of the things is, how do you handle someone? Because right now we have a huge, massive population of entitled people. And when the grid goes down or scenarios change vastly, I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to be the people who become the biggest problem the fastest. So how do we de-escalate that without resorting to brandishing a weapon or going full metal jacket on them, right? How do we de-escalate that without a show of force? Because we still want to stay under the radar. We don't want to give up any of our stuff for someone who doesn't care about us. That's not part of the solution, right? How do we handle that?
Well, that is a great question. I think it comes down to like what Paris was saying, is communication skills. Like you say, not ham radio, but how to ask the right questions, right? How to listen and respond, and let people know you really care. I think that's something, I talked to a lot of people in my career, and some people are just terrible listeners. I mean, they're just we're not, if you're not listening, you're not communicating, and vice versa. And some people just want to talk. And most of the time their gums are just flapping. And I know that happens sometimes here on the radio, on the show sometimes too, to fill in time. But it's absolutely true. I mean, that is extremely important, especially during a critical situation or a business transaction.
I mean, bartering, you have to communicate to barter.
Yeah. And it's more complicated than, hey, trade you this for that. You know, it's really a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, you got to. I think the idea is eventually to find a way that is a win-win. You know, not so much that you've. I mean, compromise is the right word, but sometimes that's a negative connotation where you're like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. He didn't get what he or she or didn't get what they wanted, and so we had to compromise. Well, you when you come together and you find a solution that actually works well for the both of you, oftentimes what I thought would work well for me and what they thought would work well for them, when we come together and we find a solution, oftentimes that's even better. The solution we find together is often better than the solution we thought of ourselves individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
Well, it makes me think I learned this from rancher down in Texas, Jeff Horn. And when I was living in Florida, he told me this. And he said, you got 2 eyes and 2 ears. That means they should each be used twice as much as that flappy mouth of yours.
Yeah, that's legit.
And I was like, oh. He also told me that we don't eat chicken because he's a cattle rancher. He's like, we don't eat pecking bird around here. If it ain't mooing, we ain't eating it. So one of the wisest people I know, apparently. But yeah, I find that that's where a lot of the problems can de-escalate is in listening, right? Listening to know how to respond instead of just responding, because a lot of us, we want to fill that void, fill that emptiness so fast. I didn't put this on my list, but I'm definitely adding it to the list because that's huge. Listening and communication.
And then probably learning a second language like Chinese, right?
Or Russian. I mean, wait, what?
Russian, yeah. I mean, Spanish, obviously, because of all the immigrants.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to learn Canadian English. So I just feel like it's going to be needed in the future. Yeah. Yeah, definitely another language is huge. My kids do Taekwondo and they're instructors from Korea. And they're starting to learn Korean and it's fantastic.
Cool.
But having another language in your repertoire is going to solve a lot of interpersonal problems in the future, especially like where we live. Spanish is going to be a huge one. It already is.
It already is. Yeah, it's huge.
Knowing a little bit of Spanish has been super helpful. Muy bueno. And the more I can learn and the more I can understand, the better it's going to be for all of us, right?
Yeah.
What about skills like sewing? About tarp repair, right? About making ropes and threads. Because one of the things, like if we lose the grid, there goes all the, and we don't really have looms here in the United States anymore.
Yep.
Like we're going to have to build looms, learn how to make cloth again, learn how to make fiber before we can even make cloth, right? Those are going to be like, those are skills that hardly anyone I've met in the last 50 years knows, or knows someone who knows. It's like, everyone's like, well, I just go down to Joann's and get all the fabric I want. Well, what if Joann's is gone?
Yeah.
I don't see that being the first thing picked out. Like when people go through and scavenge for stuff, I don't see, oh, I need a bolt of green fabric, right?
Yeah. Food is usually going to be the top deal. And then probably every sporting goods place after that.
Well, that's true. Most of our clothing comes from China or is imported otherwise. And where does the fabric come from? It's also made in those countries as well.
Yep.
And that's something that I've always thought about as well is, our clothes wear out. How are we going to replace them at a certain point, right? With just animal skins? I mean, that's honestly, I don't, other than, you can grow hemp, you can create fabric out of that. So that maybe that's a good thing to learn and start growing and so forth. Flax. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's quite a process. I have gone through the process of how to actually make fibers out of hemp and out of flax.
What is linen made from?
Linen, flax. Yeah, linen.
Oh,
flax.
okay, yeah, that's where I'd go.
Yeah,
it's amazing, but it's absolutely hard to learn, hard to do. It takes time to learn, and it takes a long time to make.
I bet.
It's quite a process, yeah, and you have to have the right tools, equipment as well. To
You know what's crazy?
If you get some sheep and do wool, that's pretty quick, but you got to wait to get the wool.
I was watching another video of some people who travel around the world, and they were in some island paradise of some kind, And there's this tree, I think it's called the gura tree or something like that. And what the locals, natives will do is they'll take this tree and they can make ropes and clothing and the shelter out of the tree. Then they can take the stalk and they grind it down into a powder. And it's like this 5 to 6 week process. Wow. That they purify it and they can create flour out of it. And then that's all their food. So one of these trees can feed a family of 3 for like several months or a year. It was like a long time. I was like, wow. But they have to do this process where they step on it and then they run it through this water mill and then they grind it and then they dry it out in these buckets and then they put it back through the water mill. And it's like 3 weeks each time they go from stage to stage to stage. And I'm just thinking to myself, who was the first guy that thought that? Like, and when he pulled that tree and started making the flour, like he only waited a week and then it was gross. Like, what made him think, you know what, if I wait 2 weeks, maybe it'll be better. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh no, it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the key. You know, like
with insanity, let's just do this again and again and again. And eventually it'll be refined enough to where you can use it.
So, I mean, those are the skill sets. I mean, somebody somewhere started everything we know today. Somebody somewhere thought of it. Like, who was the first guy that thought, hey, this chicken just laid this hard, round, white thing. Let me crack it open and eat it. Like, who was like, what? So,
a lot of it you can learn from animals in the wild, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He probably saw other animals eating it and they're like, right, try it out. I look at it that way too. I was just like, okay, what do we learn from the things that are around us? What can we learn now from the things that are around us? But like the whole story of getting milk out of the udder is like, oh, that little baby cow's going to town on that thing. I wonder what it tastes like, right? That's pretty much how it started.
Yeah.
To the best of our guess or ability. But like all of those things, it's the Edison principle. When Edison finally figured out how to make a light bulb, people are like, well, you failed 3,999 times. He goes, yeah, but I learned 3,999 times how not to do it. So that on the 4,000th try, I could do it. Right. We don't know how many times it's going to take to learn it. And so that's why we've got to start now to try and test and practice all these things. Like, I think the biggest problem we're going to have is going to come down to just extending, because I think a lot of us will have the skills, primitive skills, to be able to say, okay, I'm good for a year, right? I got my food storage, I got my water, I know how to get more water, I know how to build a fire, I know how to get more firewood, I know how to do these things. But like then after a year, it's like, okay, then what? Then it's like, the clothes.
And that's what Tyler even mentioned, that he's like, look, primitive living skills are important and we should all learn them. But he says, before you do that though, you need to learn the basic skills. And that's the storage and water, and maybe even learning how to distill water out of the thin air, you know, and those things right now, there's plenty of YouTube videos about it. So it's like, dig your well before you're thirsty, right? While the internet still works and the grid is still up, now is the time to learn as much as we can. And then we'll have the skills ready. And then frankly, get a video downloader and just have a hard drive with all the videos that you've downloaded about different skill sets to revisit in case you learn it once. Like there's skills that I've learned and then I don't use them for a year. And I'm like, crap, I need to go. Basically, I forgot everything I even learned in the first place. And so now I got to start all over. And so having a backup, a bunch like Scott just showed on the screen for those that are watching on YouTube, having a backup with
2 terabyte backup drive. And it's only
awesome.
half full and it's my Mac one. So it goes with my Mac, but it's half full on videos that I've saved and things that I've done to fix my car, like download videos like that. And I just save it all. And it's in a little Faraday bag in my drawer.
So good.
But it's like, I also have another backup. I need to get one that'll work on both Mac and PC. That's my next upgrade. But yeah, like having those things where you can use them. One of the primitive skills that people forget about is how to make and keep a library. We've talked about this a lot, but like how-tos on all these different things with graphics so that you don't have to try to learn it all and then teach somebody else. And then like having a resource to go back to is huge in learning. And so it's like, I've been building a library. I've got physical books, having physical things that I can use, tools and stuff like that. Those all help. But if you don't like Tyler said, have the basics, know how to light a fire, how to start fire, how to maintain a fire, how to put a fire out. Right? What happens if the fire gets out of control? Like all the different rules about a fire, or all the different rules about toiletry, sanitation. Most of the people I talk to when we talk about prepping, they're like, "Oh, I'll just go, use the backyard." I'm like, "How? What way are you going to use in the backyard?" They're like, "Well, I don't know." I'm like, "What are you going to clean up after yourself? Like, what's the process?" And they don't have a plan.
Yeah, sanitation is huge, and you got to know how to dig it right, or else you could get yourself sick.
Yeah, and first aid skills, like that's a huge gap. A lot of people just don't have any first aid training, or even a first aid kit. They don't have anything, and so those are things that I think are vital for people to know, but they're just not taking the time to know it and understand it enough.
Well, I think
Even
just comment on
CPR.
that is that when you have that knowledge and skills and the kits and so forth, it helps you to be more self-reliant instead of saying, well, we just got to run to the doctor, run to the emergency room, because that's kind of the default for everybody. Oh, let's just run to the doctor. Let's see what, if you have the right knowledge and the right tools and such, you're going to save yourself a trip to the doctor. And that could be emergency room visit for several $100s. And putting your trust in someone else who honestly I don't trust for the most part in that profession, unless it's obviously got to have my gallbladder out or something like that, right?
Yeah.
No substitution for a surgeon. So maybe that's something I should add to my list of skills is surgery.
We're going to start calling you Dr. Shane, medicine man.
No. I'm going to have to find a surgeon friend.
You already got the
learn how to make what is it that they used to use? A sedative instead of what is that stuff called?
It was some kind of bark, wasn't it? Like
I actually looked into the whole process where chloroform. That's what I was looking for. Chloroform. Learn how to make chloroform, and I actually found the recipe for it. But you can kill someone or yourself if you don't do it right. So still that would be a good skill to learn, is how to make chloroform. You'd be in high demand, I think.
You'd be a survivalist anesthesiologist.
There we go. I charge a heck of a lot for my services too.
Yeah.
4 chickens and a quarter of beef just per use, right?
And a sack of potatoes, 5 pounds of potatoes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the more any of us can acquire in knowledge and skills, the better, right? Definitely the basics, and then build from there. Get into the trades. Not so much like, hey, I know how to. I'm an electrician and I can refit an entire building. Like, no, just understand the basics of it, how things work, how to connect wires, how to do things safely, how to use a knife. A lot of people don't use knives on the regular, and so they're cutting towards themselves. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, whoa, let's put the knife the other way and cut away. They're like, why? And I'm like, because this can go into your neck really fast. Oh yeah, or an eye. And we just need to be humble enough to take correction when we're doing it wrong too. Like, go learn from someone that knows how to do these things and be willing to take correction. And you're going to really thrive at all of this.
It was interesting. I was on a podcast for my as a guest for my financial business, and the lady asked me about emergency fund, and she's like, how do you do emergency funds when you coach people? And I said, well, I'm a little different in my emergency funds because I'm a prepper and a financial coach. So my emergency fund is, obviously there's needs to be cash set aside, but the big thing too is one of the reasons why you set cash aside is so that you can buy groceries. Well, what if you, instead of buying groceries, use the money to buy cans and food and had your 90-day pantry? That way you already have food in your home and you don't have to worry about going to the store or using the cash for the food. You can use the cash for the bills or other bills. And so she was blown away. She's like, I've never even heard of that. Like, food storage? What? I'm like, yeah. And so, we're literally Prepper Talk Radio and our listeners, we're in a little bit of a vacuum sounding, whatever they call that room, or echo chamber, because we're like, duh. Everybody knows to have a 90-day pantry, but most of the world, we have like, I don't know, the last 30 days, we had like 13,500 downloads. So there's at least 13,500 people that know that they need to have a 90-day pantry. But that's like compared to billions of people on this earth, you know, and of course, not everybody who knows what we know listens to us. And so I'm sure there's thousands of great, wonderful, amazing survivalists and other people out there. But it's just, it kind of blew me away. I was almost nervous to tell her that I do a food storage because I didn't know how she'd react. And I was like, no, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say, I food storage. You got to have food storage. And that's a skill. Knowing what to have for breakfast, what to get for lunches, what to get for dinners, what to have all your toiletries and your personal items. I mean, a 90-day pantry store should be in every house that a homeowner, and then in apartments, you know, you may not be able to do 90 days, but at least get, you know, a month, several weeks, you know, if you're living in an apartment.
Well, one of the things too is like with gardening, if you've never gardened, your first garden is going to be horrible. Right?
Yeah.
Your second's going to be, your third's going to be all right. And your fourth, you're going to be like, okay, we figured this out finally, but there's still things you're going to learn and you'll be continually learning. But one of the things I found is like, if you don't start doing it, you're going to be dead before you figure it out post-apocalypse. So like having these survival garden seeds, that's great if you already know what you're doing with them. If you don't, what are you going to do? So I recommend starting with a huge pack of sprouting seeds. Learn how to do sprouting because you don't need anything special to start sprouting. And sprouts have tons of nutrients in them. But it's the first kind of injection into the world of gardening. I think those are some really good like pathway skills to get into. You can sprout all kinds of stuff in a mason jar. That's the amazing thing about it. Start simple, start small, and you can eat sprouts within, I think it's 4 days to 7 days, depending on most sprouts. So you're not hungry as long. But yeah, there's so many different skills. Like we could continue on and on. And I know we're a good 40 minutes into this now, and we're almost up on our time. But guys, I want you to look in your life and look at things that are a void now of skills, of knowledge that you're like, oh, if we've touched on any of those things that are a void in your current knowledge space, start there. Also, look at what you use on the daily. And if you don't know how to maintain those things, that's also a starting point.
Yeah, I think that's the next step is learn how to extend the life of everything you have. Either through maintenance or through minor repairs, learning how to darn a hole in a sock. Or like you say, Scott, put a button back on. Those types of things. Really easy skills to learn, and they help you create a lot of confidence to then move to the next step. Say, I'm going to sew my own clothes, and then I'll learn how to weave my own fabric. Then I'll get myself some sheep, and I'll learn how to shear sheep and and that's kind of the process. And kind of the prepping process is going from starting with a 72-hour kit to a homesteader. And that's a very simple illustration. It can be a lot more complicated than that, but it is all a process. And again, moving to old world type skills and not just trying to keep up on AI and programming, because we've seen where coding is going to go. It's going to go all to AI. So what skills are going to be obsolete and what are going to be more in demand? And I think like you started out, Scott, I think these old world skills, look to the past, are going to be the survival skills, are going to be the more ones in demand because most people are not learning and practicing those skills.
Well, we already are starting to see that the trades are way more in demand and have great opportunities versus, office jobs / computer jobs.
Degree jobs that require degrees.
People getting into the trades and doing stuff like that. I mean, another skill that you could probably do very well with is haircutting. Like learn how to cut hair maybe. And somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need a haircut. You're like, good, 6 eggs and I'll give you a haircut, or whatever. And so having a great deal. Even a simple skill like learning how to cut hair is another one I think would be good to have in your tool belt.
Yep.
It's funny because I cut my hair. I've been cutting my hair for years, but it's electric. So I'm like, scissors. I'll be like, there goes my ear probably, right? I'm Scott Van Gogh over here. But in everything, it's like, if you don't start playing around with it now, what are you going to learn? When are you going to learn it? And how are you going to be proficient at it when you need it?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this too. It's like, okay, how many of us have fully carpeted homes or mostly carpeted homes? How are you going to take care of that if the grid's down?
Yep.
And you don't have a power supply? How do you clean your carpets?
Yeah, that's
going to be a cesspool of filth, right?
Tear it out and put epoxy down.
But do you have epoxy? Do you know how to make epoxy?
Shane
right?
does.
I don't know how to make it. No, that's far more technical.
So I'm like, my next house, I'm like, dude, tile everything, concrete everything, and then area
or
rugs.
wood
or wood and area rugs, because then it's easier to maintain. And that's why they had it that way in the old days. Everything was tile or wood. Oh, now I get it. So guys, think about what you have, how you're living, what you're doing. How can I simplify it, and how can I maintain it? And what skills do I need to be able to keep everything going? Hopefully you guys have learned something. You've taken some good notes. Any final thoughts from you guys?
I was just thinking when I came to my mind about learning how to cut hairs, what are some other things that people need to continue to have a sense of normalcy in their life that require a skill to do? And I'm sure you'll think of way more things than I can. And haircutting was the one I just came up with. But what other skills that you could do that would be a great bartering skill? And just come up with something and learn it. And the cool thing about learning skills is don't get overwhelmed with 5,000 skills you're supposed to learn in the next 2 weeks. Just start with one skill. Learn it enough that you feel like, hey, I can do it without having somebody over my shoulder teaching me every step of the way. I can pretty much do it on my own now, and then move on to the next skill. And one by one, you'll be surprised how many skills you start collecting.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I've been thinking about just fabrication in particular, being able to fabricate a part. And of course, there's 3D printers, really popular. Maybe that's something, something I thought about getting one of my kids into. But just knowing how to fabricate simple things that are parts to larger systems, and just having the means and the ability and the experience to fabricate what you need, because I think we'll get to that point.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight and listening to our ready-minded ramblings. I hope you've learned something and had some fun. At least a little bit of fun compared to the fun we have. This is the highlight of my week, to get to record these and hang out with my two favorite people. So hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully we've got you drooling in the capacity of, I want to go do this now. I want to go do this skill. I'm going to figure this out. So that's your assignment. Marching orders is to go figure out a new skill, learn it, become the master of it. And you're going to find value in your community, value in your own life, and value in your community by doing that. And don't forget to check out our website, PrepperTalkRadio.com. We've got one of our amazing partners that we work with is Survival Frog. They got a whole bunch of sales going on. Go check out survivalfrog.com and then use the code PrepperTalk10 at the end. You get 10% off on your orders there. Guys, we love and appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in and not tuning out. Keep that head on a swivel and keep on prepping. Have a good night.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.